Doom Eternal is out, and boy is it good. I am loving every second of it, and I think you will too. Now, I'm not here to review it, I'm here to tell you guys about the benchmarks for this game. I was going to benchmark the GTX 570, 760, 970, and 1080 Ti. However, the 570 would not run the game. It gave me a little error box, and that was it. So, we have just 3 video cards for you guys today. One thing you'll notice with these benchmarks is that they're very predictable, and there's not much variation between the lowest setting and the highest setting. And even then, I couldn't really tell the graphical difference between the lowest and the very highest setting in game, to be honest with you. I'll show a comparison later on at the very end of the video. Alright, on to the lowest settings, that is 720p low. Let's start with the 760, and it is struggling with 38 frames a second. The 970 is doing wonderful at 133. And the 1080 Ti is simply bored at 309 frames a second. Medium is almost the same story, just drop all the frame rates by about 5 or less. At high, we see considerable lowering in the frame rates. 760 is literally unplayable at 30, you just can't play it. 970 is doing perfectly fine at 99. 1080 Ti is sitting at 246. 720p Ultra, 760 is about the same, 970 is about the same. 1080 Ti is down to 240. Pretty much the same. And you'll see this on with the other benchmarks, is that once you hit about the high to the ultra levels, the frame rates barely change, maybe less than 10% from high to ultra nightmare. Now for 1080p, so low settings, the 760 is unplayable at 27. The 970 is perfectly fine at 79, and the 1080 Ti is swimming at 229. Medium sees everything just a little bit lower, 25 for the 760, 73 for the 970, and 219 for the 1080 Ti. At high settings, the 760 is very unplayable. The 970 is actually doing about okay. It's 62 frames a second, so very solid frame rate. It will dip below that, of course, but this is the average. Ultra, just about the same. Nightmare, just about the same. And Ultra Nightmare, literally almost the exact same. Once again, you can really see how the 1080 Ti is almost perfectly 3 times as powerful as the 970, and the 970 is almost 3 times as powerful as the 760. Alright, so onto the 1440p benchmarks. The 760 could not make it to 1440p, so it's just the 970 and 1080 Ti left. 970 is pretty good at 58 frames a second. This is a very solid. It will drop below 60. However, I think you really won't notice it too much during gameplay. The 1080 Ti, of course, is sitting at a nice 150 frames a second. Medium settings drop about by 5 frames a second. High, another 5 frames a second. At Ultra, it's really starting to struggle at 43 frames a second. Not really playable, quite stuttery, and very slow to react. This is due to the 4 gigs of VRAM. Doom is an extremely VRAM intensive game. Nightmare is almost the same. And Ultra Nightmare is almost exactly the same as that. 4K. So, low settings, the 970 is unplayable at 26 frames a second. The 1080 Ti is doing perfectly fine at 88 frames a second. Onto medium, 970 is still unplayable. 1080 Ti, it's doing great, 84. So 4K high, this is probably the best settings for your 1080 Ti, because at 79 frames a second, even with the biggest frame drops possible, you will still stay at a rock solid 60 frames a second at minimum, while the 970 is unplayable. 4K Ultra, pretty much the same. 4K Nightmare, pretty much the same. Ultra Nightmare, literally the same. Alright, so to round this out, I'm going to show you guys a comparison between the lowest, medium, high, and Ultra Nightmare settings, and you're really going to see how there's almost no discernible difference between the lowest and the highest settings, and that's probably why the frame rate isn't that much different between the lowest and the highest settings. And that is it for this video. Please drop a like, comment, subscribe. Maybe next time I'll do Half-Life Alyx. I think that'd be a fun benchmark. I've never really benchmarked a VR game before, but Half-Life Alyx is definitely worth my time. So I'll see y'all next time. Later.